The ship was dying. Captain Ra could feel it in her bones as the emergency lights painted everything in bloody red. Around her, 342 survivors huddled together in the cargo hold. Children cried into their mothers' chests. The elderly whispered prayers to gods who had not saved their home world. "Captain," her navigator said, his voice shaking, "the engines are failing. We cannot reach the safe zone. We must land somewhere now or we will all die in the void." Ra looked at the star map. There was only one planet within reach, a small blue world orbiting an ordinary yellow star. The galactic database had almost nothing about it, just a simple entry that read, Earth, species, human, status, pre-contact civilization. Warning, avoid. "Why does it say avoid?" Ra asked. Shook his large head. "Unknown. The Dominion placed that warning there centuries ago. No further information exists." Behind them the ship groaned. Metal screamed against metal. They had minutes, maybe less. Ra made her choice. "Take us down. Whatever lives on that world, we will face it. It is better than dying in space." The descent was violent. The ship broke apart as it entered the atmosphere. Pieces scattered across the night sky like falling stars. Inside, they screamed and held onto each other. Ra kept her eyes on the viewing screen. She watched the blue world grow larger. She saw vast oceans and green lands. She saw lights. Millions of lights spread across the dark side of the planet. This world was not primitive. These humans had built cities. The crash landing destroyed what remained of their ship. When Ra woke up, she was lying in tall grass. The sky above was turning orange and pink. She had never seen such colors before. Her home world had been in cold. This place was warm. It smelled sweet. She found her people scattered across a wide field. Some were injured. Some were not moving at all. Was helping pull survivors from the wreckage. They counted 289 alive. 53 had not survived the landing. "Captain," one of her officers called out, "we are not alone." Ra turned and saw them. Humans. Dozens of them standing at the edge of the field. They wore strange clothes and held small devices in their hands. Some had weapons. All of them were staring at them with wide eyes. They were tall and thin, with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were completely black. Ra knew they must look terrifying to these creatures. She prepared herself for violence. Every other species they had encountered had attacked first and asked questions later. One human stepped forward. It was smaller than the others, with long hair the color of dried leaves. It held up both hands, showing they were empty. "Hello," the human said slowly. "Are you hurt? Do you need help?" Ra did not understand the words, but she understood the tone. It was gentle, concerned. She had not expected that. Within hours, more humans arrived. Large vehicles came with flashing lights. People in uniforms set up shelters and handed out blankets. Medical workers treated the wounded without hesitation. They did not seem afraid. They seemed curious and worried. A translation device was brought. A human scientist worked through the night to connect it to language patterns. By morning, they could communicate. "Who are you?" asked a human leader named General. "Where do you come from?" Ra told him everything. She told him about their home world, a peaceful planet called. She told him about the Dominion, a massive empire that conquered and enslaved entire species. She told him how the Dominion had arrived with 1,000 warships. They demanded surrender. When they refused, the Dominion burned their cities. They killed billions in a single day. Only a handful of ships escaped. Most were hunted down and destroyed. "We are all that remains of our people," Ra said. "Less than 300 souls. We were trying to reach neutral space, but our ship was damaged. We had no choice but to land here. We are sorry for the trouble we have caused." General was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. "You have caused no trouble. You are refugees. You came to us asking for nothing but a chance to survive. We will not turn you away." Ra felt tears forming in her dark eyes. "You do not understand. The Dominion will come looking for us. They always do. They will find us here, and when they do, they will destroy your world too. You should send us away. Save yourselves." Smiled, it was a strange expression on human faces. "Let them come," he said. "We have been alone in this universe for a long time. We always wondered if other life existed out there. Now we know, and we will not let our first friends be taken by some empire of bullies." They were given homes. A small town in the countryside was prepared for them. Humans donated food, clothes, and medicine. Children came to meet the alien visitors. They were not afraid. They asked questions and offered toys. An elderly woman wept when a human child gave her a flower. She had not been shown kindness by a stranger in many years. Months passed. They began to heal. They learned human languages and human ways. They shared their own knowledge. Scientists worked with human researchers. Together, they made discoveries that neither could have made alone. But Ra never stopped watching the sky. She knew the Dominion would come. They always did. The day arrived 18 months after the crash. Sensors detected ships entering the solar system. Not one or two, but 200 warships. The Dominion had found them. A transmission was sent to Earth. It was from Dominion Commander. His species was large and covered in hard scales. His voice dripped with contempt. "Primitive creatures of the third planet," he announced. "You are harboring criminals who belong to the Dominion. Surrender them immediately and you will be spared. Resist, and your civilization will be erased. You have one rotation of your planet to comply." The message was broadcast around the world. Humans everywhere watched and listened. They saw the massive fleet in their sky. They understood what was being demanded. The United Nations held an emergency meeting. World leaders gathered to decide the fate of the Ra, and her people waited in silence. They had already accepted their fate. They would surrender themselves. They would not let these kind humans die for them. But then the announcement came. "The answer is no," said the Secretary General of the United Nations. "These people came to us in their darkest hour. They asked for shelter and we gave it. We will not hand them over to slavers and murderers. Earth stands with the—" Ra could not believe what she was hearing. "You will all die," she said to General. "Your weapons cannot match theirs. You have no warships. You have nothing." Looked at her with hard eyes. "We have something they will never understand. We have each other, and we have a really nasty habit of refusing to give up." The Dominion fleet moved toward Earth. They expected easy victory. They had destroyed hundreds of civilizations. One more would make no difference. They did not know about human stubbornness. Every nation on Earth worked together. Old enemies became allies overnight. Missiles were launched from every continent. Nuclear weapons, which humans had built to use against each other, were turned toward a common enemy. Satellites were converted into weapons. Civilian ships were loaded with explosives and sent on one-way missions. The Dominion was shocked. These primitives were fighting back. More than that, they were fighting effectively. The humans had no energy shields. They had no faster-than-light technology, but they had numbers, they had courage, and they had fury. The battle lasted for 3 days. The skies burned with fire. Ships exploded on both sides. Humans died by the thousands, but they kept fighting. When their missiles ran out, they rammed their aircraft into Dominion vessels. When their aircraft were gone, they launched rocks and debris into space. Commander watched in disbelief as his mighty fleet was torn apart by creatures the Dominion had dismissed as insects. He ordered a retreat, but it was too late. His flagship was surrounded by human vessels. A final message came from Earth. "You came to take our friends," General said. "Now you will never threaten anyone again." The Dominion flagship vanished in a flash of nuclear fire. Of the 200 warships that had come to Earth, only 12 escaped. They fled into deep space, carrying stories of a primitive world that had defeated the unstoppable Dominion. Word spread across the galaxy. The humans had done what no one else had dared. They had said no. In the aftermath, Ra stood before the United Nations. She looked at the tired faces of human leaders. So many had lost loved ones in the battle. Cities had been damaged. The cost had been terrible. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you sacrifice so much for strangers?" An old woman stood up. She was the leader of a small country that had lost half its military in the fighting. She smiled at Ra. "Because you needed help," she said simply. "And helping those in need is what makes us human." The never forgot. They stayed on Earth and became part of human civilization. Their technology helped humanity rebuild and grow stronger. Together, they reached for the stars. Other refugee species heard about Earth. They came seeking shelter. Humans welcomed them all. The galaxy had spent centuries fearing the Dominion. Now they whispered a new name: Earth, the planet that protected the helpless, the world that fought for strangers, the civilization that chose kindness over safety. And somewhere in the ruins of the Dominion, survivors told their children to stay away from the blue planet. Stay away from the humans, because those strange creatures with only 2 arms and soft skin had proven something no one expected. They were the most dangerous species in the galaxy, not because of their weapons or their technology, but because they cared. And when humans cared about something, they would burn the universe down to protect it. Ra lived for many more years on Earth. She raised a family. She watched children playing with human children in the streets. She grew old surrounded by friends. On her last day, she looked up at the stars. She thought of her lost home world. She thought of the billions who had died. And she smiled, because her people had survived, because humans had chosen to stand between them and death, because in all the cold darkness of space, her ship had crashed on the one world that would fight for strangers. Earth had not just saved them, it had given them a new home, a new family, a new purpose. And in return, they had given humanity something too. They had given them proof that they were not alone, that the universe was full of life, that sometimes the right thing to do was also the hardest thing. The galaxy was changing. Old empires were falling. New alliances were forming. And at the center of it all stood a small blue world that refused to abandon anyone in need. Humanity had made its choice. They would protect the weak. They would stand against tyrants. They would welcome the lost. And the stars themselves trembled at what they had unleashed.